All right, we are back with another episode of BTTB podcast, and I'm here with a special guest, Trinity from Georgia. Trinity is a 17-year-old powerlifter, um, getting ready for Raw Nationals in Atlanta in June this year. She's a former high school national competitor in 2024. She is competed for nearly 3 years or over 3 years, and has some great stories to tell. And I'm super excited to be here with her today. We're going to have a great episode talking about all things powerlifting, get her experience, her background, maybe learn some things from her, what to do, what not to do, and just let her story maybe resonate with someone else that's thinking about getting into the sport or is just got into the sport, because she has around 8 to 10 competitions. So she's been there, done that, kind of hung around the block for a while. I'm super excited, Trinity, to have you here. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
No, all right. So, like I said, Trinity, you are from Georgia.
Yeah,
17 is junior, senior. What are you?
I'm a junior right now.
All right. So an older junior, actually. Well, I don't know, I guess kind of, yeah. Um, so like I said, you have competed in about 8 to 10 powerlifting comps. You said you can't remember exactly, which I
Yeah.
understand they all run together. Let's go back to the beginning though, and let's talk about kind of where your barbell training originated from, and kind of walk me through where you found out about powerlifting and what made you want to compete in that first comp.
So I originally was a cheerleader in elementary school and middle school, and I did cheerleading throughout middle school. And so at my school, we always had to lift weights if we were in a sport. And then as weightlifting and cheerleading went on, I realized that I loved weightlifting so much, and it made me so happy. And so I told my mom about it, and she's a researcher, so doing all this research with competitions and everything. And so we found out that USAPL was a thing, and you could actually compete in squat, bench, and deadlift. And so I had wanted to do powerlifting but didn't know how to really start. So I went to a CrossFit gym in my town, and I started doing CrossFit, and then they learned about my powerlifting like dream and
Mhm.
everything. So I started doing CrossFit, and then they started a powerlifting class for me. And the coach, he was very new to powerlifting as I was. So he had to learn with me. And so he wasn't knowledgeable in that fact, so I had to find a different coach now. And I was 14, and I've had the same coach since I was 14.
So now, did the original powerlifting coach from the CrossFit gym actually train you all the way up to a comp?
He didn't.
Okay, so that's probably smart. I would say that I'm impressed with the guy's willingness to try to take that journey, or I shouldn't say guy. I don't know if it was a guy. That
Yeah, I was a guy.
coach's okay. That
Yeah.
coach's willingness to try to help you, even if he's not knowledgeable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I commend you, and I'm guessing your mom, for realizing that maybe this is not the best way to start a sport with someone leading you that isn't leading from experience. So
Yep.
kudos to that. Now, did you understand powerlifting before your mom found out that USAPL was a thing and held meets in Georgia?
Not necessarily. We were both kind of learning about it. She printed out the entire rule book and read the entire thing. And I was like, "Mom, it's not it's, it's not that big of a deal." And then we found out there was one in Savannah,
Mm-hmm.
and there's one in like Statesboro, and meets closer. And
Okay.
so everything like that. So we were just kind of testing the waters at first, like watching YouTube videos and seeing what other lifters do and everything like that.
Well, it sounds like you have an excellent mom. So I want to give some kudos to her, because that is some intense research, some intense like excitement just to be on your side. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people a lot of parents dealing with kids your age almost are so worried about lifting that they are hesitant to let your their kids compete. And it looks like your mom just said, you know, she didn't step a toe into it. She belly flopped into
Yeah.
powerlifting and research it. So I don't you be sure to tell your mom that she's number one to me right now, because that's an amazing parent. Um so you found a new coach, you're about to go into your first competition, if you can remember, because I know it was some years ago, but tell me what
Mhm.
it was like. I know that I deal with a lot of teenagers, and anxiety is running rampant, and you know the fear of not competing, or the fear of not completing a lift, or and all those things run through your mind. Tell me a little bit about what was going through your head at that time, and how you, your parents, or your coach worked you through all that and got you to where you could um actually compete on that day.
So walking into the venue, I actually remember most of it. I remember walking into the venue thinking like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. Like, I'm so scared right now. If I lose, I'm gonna cry," and all this, everything running through my mind. And so
Real
I'm
quick,
walking in.
I wanted to find, what would you have considered losing that day?
I guess my version of losing is not getting the numbers that I wanted.
Okay.
Not necessarily losing to a specific person, but not living up to the satisfaction of my goals.
Perfect answer. I love hearing that. That's what I preach to all my kids. I said, you're never going to be able to control who comes to this meet or how gifted or talented they are. The number one thing about powerlifting is that no one ever loses if they PR. How can you consider your time and effort um invaluable when you just prove to yourself that you've got better? So that's what I strive with my kids. So I love to see that that was something that was the main focus in your eyes. Now, I'd love the fact that you said you had goals too. You had numbers that you wanted to hit. I'm
Yeah.
a firm believer on. Now, did you walk through those numbers with your coach or anything to make sure that your numbers were manageable, or actually, because I know that I've seen some kids be like, well, I want to squat 200, and we've just now got to like 130. So did you talk to your coaches about that or anything?
Yeah, so I usually discuss like the day before, or like a couple of days before, we discuss like the numbers, like what I would like to hit, or like a lower number that I'd like to hit that I'd be satisfied with. And meets, like, I don't always expect to PR because you might feel off that day on
Hmm.
squats or bench or deadlift. So it's not always what you want, but I'm always so thankful to lift and everything. So as
We'll
long as
definitely
I'm
get
like
into that
satisfied.
conversation in a little bit then, because what you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
said was amazing. All right, so we're at the competition. Um, Bars loaded. You go out for the first squat. Tell me what you're thinking and how that went.
Don't miss my command. Don't miss my command.
Hey, at
Cuz
least you're thinking about it.
we were so like scared about the commands, especially cuz it was my first comp. I feel like that's a huge thing for first like meets.
Mhm.
So I'm going in and I'm like, "Okay, this is going to be easy. Just don't miss your command. Take it slow." And so I hit it and I'm like, "Okay, that was good." And then I rack it and then I'm like, "Oh, it didn't count.
What'd you miss it
What
for?
do I do?" Depth.
Mm. Okay, so real quick, we missed our first squat, so we'll get into that in a second. But how long into peak did you start with commands, or trying to learn your commands?
Maybe a week or two before the comp.
No wonder you were so
Yeah.
worried about. Is this coach
Yes.
in person or are they online? If you don't mind me
In
asking.
person.
Okay, so that's I would have. I so my recommendation for any teenager or any youth athlete or any adult going into this: don't wait that long. Start commands 4 or 5 weeks. I don't care if you do doubles. Do commands on both or triples. Do commands on all 3 reps. Getting into that motor pattern is invaluable with beginner lifters. And as a coach, as a judge, I've seen way too many people fail that because they wait too late to do commands. So I would probably say that you waited too late to start.
Yeah, it just added to the stress.
Yeah. So depth. I'm assuming your coach had. Now, did your coach have powerlifting experience? Is that why you went with him? Okay, so it was a
So,
learning curve for them too.
yes, it was definitely like because he was a more experienced trainer, like he did personal training and he did a bunch of variations of training.
Okay.
So, whenever me and my mom started with him, we were both kind of learning with him and all that stuff.
Okay. So okay, we didn't miss commands, but we didn't go low enough.
Yes.
What made you think that you didn't hit depth? As far as like what in you made you miss depth? Do you think that was a training issue or was it just anxiety that you rushed it?
A little bit of both. Cause in training, like we used to take videos of my squat all the time, and my mom would post it, and everyone would be like, it's a little high." So it
Mm,
also, I think it's a nerve thing too. So I might have
yeah.
been a little high.
Okay. So red lights on first one. We go up to second one. What does your coach tell you heading into that second one? Because I know now we're not dealing with just physical inabilities. Our mental um, aspect is going probably 10 times worse than what it was even under squat one because your first reaction is failure. So what was talked about in that 5 to 10 minutes between attempt one and two?
So I can't really say the first word he said, but he said butt to grass,
So an
basically.
A
And
word.
I was like, okay. And
A
he's just
donkey,
like,
basically.
yeah. He just said, make sure you go low enough. It's
Okay.
really light. You should be fine. Like, just trying to hype me up and trying to calm me down and
Hmm.
get me ready
Good.
for the next lift.
So he did make sure that the first attempt was light enough that it should be easy. Did you
Yes,
take the same attempt selection on your second attempt?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, smart move. For an unexperienced coach, you can tell him that there are some things that he did really well at that first one. Then, so
Yeah,
kudos to him. How'd the second one go?
I missed that one too.
Four.
Depth again. It
Ooh.
it messed me up so bad on mental. Like, I was like, I thought I hit depth. Like, what am I doing wrong?
Did you
I
talk
was
to the
just ready
judge? Did
to.
they say anything?
I think my
Or
coach did, yeah. I've never
okay,
talked to a judge. My coach has always dealt with all that
okay.
stuff because me going up to a judge doesn't look right. Like, it's like, I don't want to argue with a judge that's about to judge me in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk. Use this to talk about that. One, I would never suggest arguing with a judge. You're right there,
Yeah.
but asking or even asking how much more you might need, um, wouldn't be a bad thing. I think talking to a
Yeah.
judge is not disrespectful or anything like that. But
Yeah.
I understand when you have a handler, it's best for them to do that too because
Yeah.
they also saw the squat better because I'm sure that he was watching. So I just wanted to point that out because I see too many kids or even adults without handlers or even handlers not come up to judges with a missed lift and ask, hey, what was that for? How much
Hmm.
more? Like, things like that. So a judge is there to hold the standards, but they want successful lifts just as bad as the lifters do. So they're
Hmm.
willing to at least talk technically about what went wrong there. So don't be scared to
Yeah.
talk to a judge. But like I said, I agree with you as a young person with a handler. That's what they're for. That's what they get paid
Yeah.
for. All right, so let me cross my fingers. How did thirds go?
I got it.
All right, way to go. That's awesome news. I'm assuming it was the same weight as the first and second attempt.
I think we might have went up a little bit, I believe.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
some cojones, coach. So we got depth. Commands were never an issue.
Mm-mm.
How'd the rest of the meet go?
It went great. It just went uphill from there. Like bench, we started off lighter because we were also like we were nervous from squat because we were like, okay, we need to make sure we have it straight this time. And
Hmm.
so bench went really good. And then I got all three of my benches. And then my deadlift, I think I got all three deadlifts too. So it was a really good meet.
So 7 for 9 potentially, starting off as bad as you can, basically on walking on eggshells for that third, but came out successful and then had the meat of your life. And I think you said you totaled. Um, Let me see what I wrote down. You totaled around about 650 ish or so. Is that right?
And pounds, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Not, and this is at 14.
Yes.
That's actually a very, very good total. Um, I want to commend you on that because I've definitely seen some newbies, especially females. That's big numbers. Would you contribute that to cheerleading and just the strength that you've had to gain from that?
Yeah, because definitely not lifting weights and like squat, bench, and deadlift. Sometimes it doesn't always hit those little intricate muscles that
Hmm.
cheerleading would.
Yeah.
So I
You
think it's
said
definitely helped.
you said you were a base in cheerleading. I think in a
Yeah.
previous conversation we had. So that's definitely a more demand physically. I don't want to say it's more physical. It's more strength demand. I don't even want to say that because getting thrown up in the air and moving, you had a basis of strength. You had a
Yeah.
beginning level. I don't want to insult any flyers or anything that and say they're not
No,
strong.
it's
So I apologize, all cheerleaders. You are amazing. I couldn't do what you. I can barely walk straight, and um so we finished the meet. What was going through your mind? Kind of what was your mentality on what the sport was like? Did you have fun? When did you decide to do another one? Walk us through a couple things like that.
So after the meet, I realized like, wow, this is like really fun, and I want to do like 1,000 of them. And it was so like, and it didn't even matter because I was in the teen one and the open, and I didn't place in the open. It was my first meet, and I didn't. It didn't really matter to me. I just had a lot of fun. I was just like, I just want to do this for the rest of my life.
Um, did you have any other lifters come talk to you or support you or any? Like I said, I know a lot of our teenagers get a lot of praise from other lifters um, for just doing what you did, and especially with you being able to overcome two missed lists. Did you have any sense of community from the other lifters or anything like that?
So nobody really like came up and talked to me, but like watching the videos back and seeing everyone cheer for me behind
Okay.
the curtain, like it was just it was amazing.
Mhm. And that could have been because of your isolation, or something like that, trying to mentally prepare for that third.
Yeah.
So you loved it. Talk us through now. We've gone to 8 to 10. What have been some of the things that kept you into the sport? Have you had any ups or downs or mental lows? Because I know sometimes you don't have the best comp, or training just gets stagnant or things like that. Talk us what's kept you going into the sport and things like that.
Um, I guess it's just always felt amazing. Like lifting has always felt like home. It's always felt like myself. And it has made me so much more confident in my body because I was always told like, "Oh, you're just big boned and all this stuff."
Mm.
And lifting just has made me so much more confident and even more now that I'm stronger. So, it's just really built my confidence throughout the years that I've been doing it, and just seeing how much I can push myself and to get stronger has just been amazing. And like the community of it too, just everyone supporting you. And even when you're down, people bring you back up, even if they're competing against you. They want to
So
support you through and through.
so that's a good point. So the first comp you didn't have that sense of community, probably because everybody could tell you were nervous and things like that. Tell me
Yeah.
a little bit about what you mean. Like, what happens during these meets that help you kind of feel that sense of encouragement from everybody else? Because I don't think I think people don't understand that no athlete wants you to do worse so that they can place better. It's a very individual sport, but no one wants success over someone else's um
Yeah.
you know, how do I want to word? I didn't word that very well. No one's hoping that you fail so that they win, I should say.
Yeah.
Everybody's okay with if you hit that PR, then I guess I'm not first today, type thing, and they're cheering you on. So tell me about some encounters that you dealt with that.
So I actually I'm friends with one of the meet directors, and she's come up to me at every meet that she's been at and been like, "Are you ready? Are you nervous? Like, you're looking strong." And then at the last meet actually, I was warming up for deadlift, and I was feeling a little down because I was feeling a little heavy that day.
Mm-hmm.
And so a girl came up to me that competed a couple days before and was like, "Wow, you're so inspirational, like good job, you're looking really good." And I was like, "Thank you so much, like that's so sweet." And it just really it boosted my confidence a lot that day.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Um, it's definitely good when you can go to the same meet directors um, competition, especially as a young athlete, because it's kind of allows you to understand what's going to happen and things like that. So very smart. But now you've gone to some out of state competitions, and let's get into the conversation. What made you decide to go to 2024 high school nationals in Louisiana? What was when did you decide you wanted to try to maybe qualify for that? I'm sure your mom already had the research done on how to qualify, so that's not a question to ask.
Yeah.
But what kind of thoughts went into that, saying, "Hey, I want to see what I'm like compared to other teenagers," and just talk us through a little bit about all that and what led up to what changed in your training, if anything changed as far as getting ready for nationals. Talk about maybe the travel and what it was like to compete in a competition with so many people your age, because Louisiana High School Nationals was a 4 day event. I think it had 740 or so lifters. It was an amazing time. Talk us through a little bit about that, because I don't think people realize how, even if you're not going to go in as number one, how amazing that competition can be. So talk us through all like 5 things I just talked about.
Okay, so like hearing that I qualified for nationals was like, wow, like I actually qualified.
Who told you that?
My mom, you know, her
Because she knew how to.
research.
Yeah. Your mom's awesome, man. I'm highly impressed. Does she do outside research on demand for other people? Because I got some topics I could have her look into.
She probably could do that.
All right. So your mom, does she inform you like the day of comp or the day you qualified, or did she do it afterwards, or when did she tell you?
So, we first had to go to like a state or regional meet
Mm-hmm.
where that's where you qualify. And
Mm-hmm.
so, once I did like qualify, um she was like, "Oh, do you want to go to high school nationals?" Because we couldn't really go to raw nationals because it was really far away. So, high school nationals
Where
was
was Raw
in
Nationals in 2024?
Utah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, "No, I'm good." So we just went to high school nationals, which wasn't bad because there was more people in my age group. So
I
that
was
was
about to say,
nice.
what I find that, and we'll get into Raw Nationals for this year, but so originally you thought it would, okay. I'm sorry. We'll get into it more about after your high school nationals. So
Okay.
we're getting ready for high school nationals, because
Mhm.
I wouldn't I wouldn't necessarily say someone your age, unless it's convenient, would want to go to Raw versus high school, just because you're going to compete against so many more your age group. But go ahead,
Yeah.
you've qualified, you know where it's at. It's convenient or local, or it's not local because it's in Louisiana and you're in Georgia, but it's at least manageable. Talk
Yes.
us about like what your coach decided to do in training, because that's a big investment. It's a lot different than just $125 or $100 for a comp and maybe an hour or two drive. This is, I mean, multiple states away. You're going to have to stay overnight. About what did your mom or anything have any requirements of, hey, if we're going to do this, you gotta step it up or anything like? Just talk us through everything.
So I was really looking forward to high school nationals. So I was like training super hard with my coach. I was chasing PRs and everything. And it was hard. I mean, training for nationals is gonna be hard. But
So your coach pushed you a
I'm
little bit harder.
yeah, he did.
Good.
And I'm thankful for it because I mean I wouldn't be the person I am today without my coach.
Hmm.
And so even if I got eighth, I mean, I'm still thankful.
So you got
And I
eight.
was yeah, yeah.
Let's
And
go back
so
a little
even
bit. Let's
okay.
how was the travel? Like, did y'all fly? Did you drive?
We drove.
How long of a drive was that?
I think it was like 8 or 9 hours.
And you were a JV. Did you compete JV or did you compete varsity in
I competed
2024?
varsity.
So you're technically a sophomore, right? And you competed
Yeah.
varsity.
Hmm.
So eighth honestly isn't even that bad considering they had, a year or two of um age on you. I wouldn't say eighth with any kind of negativity. What made you go varsity versus JV, if you don't mind me asking?
I wanted to push myself,
Love
and
that
I thought
answer.
maybe I could compete, and I just wanted to see how much I could push myself and see where I could go.
Okay. Training's getting more intense than ever before because of the high level meet. Travel was definitely a lot longer. Did you I ask this because I'm notorious for it. Did you look at anybody else in your weight and class and see what they were doing? Did you kind of know leading up to it or on the day of where you were probably going to kind of look like or anything like that?
So leading up to it, I do the same exact thing. I look at everybody, everybody,
Okay.
and I'm like, okay, this is like a rough estimate of where I would place. And I was hoping to place top five, but deadlift didn't go that well, so
Mhm.
I had placed eighth.
Okay. So obviously at that point you knew there were going to be some lifters that were going to beat you, which as a
Yes.
JV going into varsity, um, how did you handle that? Was that ever an issue, or I know you kind of said that you wouldn't have defeated that, but I think, the reason I ask this is because I see a lot of teenagers, if they're not going to win, why do it? Talk to me
Yeah.
about why that wasn't a factor for you, and what maybe helped that, maybe something in your personality, something the coaches or your parents said. You knew you weren't going to win based on stalking other people's performance, but you still went, you still had a great time, you still gave it your best. Why was that?
I think, in my opinion, losing is necessary to push yourself to the next level and
Great answer.
to and to just learn from your mistakes. And even when someone's better than you, push to be better than them and
Okay.
better than someone else.
Man, this was a good pick. That was a great answer. So did you PR at high school nationals?
On my squat, I definitely did.
What about your total?
My total,
Or did deadlift bring you down?
deadlift brought me down a little bit
Okay.
because,
But you did hit a PR. So did you really lose?
no, I was
Exactly.
actually quite happy
Awesome.
with, with my squat and bench and
Awesome.
deadlift.
All right. So talk us about how high school nationals was from a teenager to teenager perspective. Did you meet anybody? Do you talk to them now, or do you follow them? Because that's what I try to get from the kids that I take to high school nationals. Like, I make them go talk to people. Like, hey, if you don't get someone's phone number or someone's Instagram handle or something like that, then you've done yourself a disservice. Would you say that
Mhm.
you befriended anybody at high school nationals or at all?
Um, Not at high school nationals. Just because my mindset was so
Mhm.
like nationals, nationals, nationals. Um, but usually after every comp, I gain like followers on Instagram just from like
The
the
competitors.
USAPL,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and all that stuff.
Okay, would you say, looking back, that you wish you would have maybe got people's contact or anything like that more, now that you've kind of, your mentality has shifted and you can look at it from a hindsight, because there's never going to be another comp. Well, there might be, because you could go next year theoretically, but there's very few comps where you have that many people your age that love the same
Yeah.
thing you do. Do you think that, is that something maybe you regret or wish you would have done more of, just to kind of got more people your age?
Yeah. Even like with the people that were sharing a rack with me, like just those little things, like I wish I'd talked to more people.
Mm-hmm.
And even at my last meet, like the people I was sharing a rack with, I was like chatting it up with them
Mm-hmm.
and they were grown women.
Um,
So,
I say that, and I'm guessing you aren't as social, because you definitely seem like a social person,
yeah.
um, because of the anxiety and the intensity of that meet. I wanted to bring that up because I really push people to not let their anxiety change who they are naturally,
Mhm.
um, during high pressure. Because with my big thing is, I'm trying to teach my teenagers and my youth athletes that powerlifting is such a good thing, because you're going to get into high anxiety, high pressure situations as an adult. And if you've learned to control those emotions and still be yourself, or still be under control, the odds of everything going better is a lot higher. So like I said,
Yeah.
I wanted to point that out, because I saw the same thing with my first athlete at nationals. She was so overwhelmed with the environment and what that meant, and with the pressure that she was putting on herself, that she, if I didn't force her to socialize, she probably would have stayed in a corner and been quiet and things like
Yeah.
that. So I just say that to for any athlete, going to a nationals, whether it be high school or um, open or collegiate, if you're listening as a college student, make sure you recognize the opportunity that you have, which is to be on the biggest stage with the most athletes that love the sport that you love. Don't let the anxiety and nerves overwhelm you, so that you don't meet new people, you don't, reach out. Because what I tell my athletes is, high school friends are going to drift as you grow up, you move, you know, the people that I'm friends with now are the people that have similarities. They either, they attend
Yeah.
church with me, they love lifting as well, or, they're in our circle of what we like. So
Mhm.
build that circle early. If you're
Yes,
loving
definitely.
powerlifting, befriend a lot more powerlifters, because they're likely going to stay your friends longer than those ones that are just in the same school with you 5 days a week. And then
Yeah.
when y'all aren't in school, watch what happens. All right, so high school nationals, eighth place, but you still had a great time.
Yeah.
Um, Talk us into um, kind of what has led you to go to Raw Nationals instead of high school nationals this year. I know the answer, but
So, Raw Nationals this year is in Atlanta. And so I'm in Georgia, so it's a lot more convenient for me.
okay,
Um, I would rather go to high school nationals, but it's in Wisconsin, and that's kind of far. So Raw
that's a lot
Nationals will
longer
do.
than an 8 hour drive for you. That'd be like a 14.
Yeah.
Okay, so Raw Nationals, of course, you're going to compete against um, a lot less people in your age group, but I still, this is me just trying to mentor as I naturally do. Do what I just said, and make sure you take the time and befriend people. I know that I've already seen a lot of a lot of teen 3 lifters sign up for that meet. So that'd be a
Yeah, me
great
too.
great opportunity. Like I said, I just want to point that out. Like, you're never going to be at the odds of you being at least at another meet that big, or that's the only kind of meet you can meet that many people. So
Yeah.
do yourself a service and make sure you get some people's handles, make sure you get some phone numbers. That way you can build those connections longer. So we're going to talk about Raw Nationals and how that prep's going, but let's get into the conversation about this deadlift number that I've heard about. Tell me a little bit about the backstory of what is it, 319, and
Mm.
the awful jinx of that deadlift number.
So at the last couple meets, I've been chasing 319, and it's been to the wire, inches from hitting, like getting it and grinding it out, and I just cannot get it. And
Okay.
so I've been like training
So how many comps have you missed this attempt selection on?
at least two.
At least two. Um, Tell me about the last time you missed it. What led up to that miss? What have you decided to change based on the fact that you're missing this attempt?
So at the last comp, I'm like super excited to hit this deadlift. And so I go in there and I'm warming up and I'm like, wow, it's kind of heavy. And so I go in for my first one. It's a little heavy for an opener, but I'm like, we will roll with it.
Mm.
And so and I go into the second one and I'm like trying to hype myself up and everything like that. And to the point where I made myself a little dizzy. So I'm like shaking the bar and I'm like, okay, I gotta pull. And so I pull and it gets like an inch off the ground. And then I like almost fall over the bar. And so I'm like, I know I can get this because I just made myself dizzy. So I go
Mm.
into the next one and I'm like, okay, I need to calm down.
So you tried it on your
Calm down.
second attempt, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, so you went for 319 on your second. You were way too amped, way too
Yeah.
anxious. You kind of did the notorious like raw top, getting ready for
Yeah.
that big pull, and it got you dizzy. Probably took your
Yeah.
breath way too soon, held it for way too long. All right, so we're going into the third. What'd your coach say? Maybe going into that third one, or what did you kind of think that was like? Hey, I got to change this. I can do this if I change this.
So I realized that I needed to change that, and my coach didn't really know what happened, so I had to like explain it to him. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I know I got it, like it's fine. And so I'm like just thinking of like the worst things that could happen. And so I'm like trying to just hold it together. And so I'm going in there and I'm like, okay, we got this. Like it's only 319.
Now,
And
have
so
you
I'm
pulled
going in there.
320 or above in training to make you
In
so comp?
training, my PR is 335.
Okay, was that like clean, or was that like a training video where you hitched a little bit but you got it up so you count it in your head?
No, it was pretty clean in
Okay,
my opinion.
because like I said, I know a lot of people that they consider their gym PR a PR that isn't to comp standards, and then they wonder why they haven't hit that in a comp. So I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Um, so going into that third, what happens?
So I pull it and I'm like super excited,
So
like oh
so
my
you
gosh,
get
I
the
just
down
pulled
command.
that. Yeah, I got the down command.
Okay, so you got it
And then
all the way
I
up,
mm-hmm. And then
and
I put it down, but a little too aggressively. And so the judges, the head panel, um they gave me two reds.
so you
And
accelerated the
so
bar on the
yeah,
way down. So, I what made you do that?
I was just so excited, like
Yeah.
I couldn't contain it. Like
Mhm.
it was just so exciting.
All right. So, has that hindered your love for the sport at all? Missing this lift so
No.
many times. Okay, what has it done then?
Uh, it. I guess helped me learn not to aggressively accelerate the bar, but it's taught me how to approach deadlift and how to not approach deadlift and how to mentally prepare for a lift that you know you haven't been hitting and you know you really want, and you just have to know that in your brain you have it, and it's just mental.
Okay.
And then,
Uh, can I give you my 2 cents to coaching
mhm.
advice if you don't mind? Not to step on your actual coaches,
No,
but
no, 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 it's
can I
okay.
say it? Can I repeat a phrase that you've said multiple times about warming up for deadlift?
Yeah.
It feels a little heavy. You've said that, like, if
That's
we
true.
go back, you've said it 3 times about, I think, warming up for deadlifts. So can I,
Yeah.
what I would automatically say is you're putting doubt in the start of the warm ups.
Yeah.
So you have to learn. I'm a firm believer in talking things into existence. If you put it out there, that it'll potentially happen. And it
Hmm.
sounds like you're automatically putting doubt into that deadlift, probably
Hmm.
because like you've been trying for this so long. So I would
Hmm.
recommend, first of all, working on positive mentality, not
Yeah.
letting yourself say negative things. Don't let yourself think them. And if you are thinking them, lie to yourself verbally, like say out loud, lie, wait, go look up Ronnie Coleman if you ever need
Oh, I
some.
love him.
Okay, so you know his notorious phrase. Man,
Yes.
17 years old and knows who Ronnie Coleman is. You either spend a lot of
My
time
dad.
on. Okay, so is your dad a lifter?
So he was in the military, and he like goes to the gym and lifts weights and
So he
all
has a
that
lot of
stuff.
physical fitness desire, but not competitive.
Yeah, yeah,
Awesome. So man, I pr- so we talked a little bit about preparing for a lift. I will say lightweight, or I got this, or this is easy, so many times preparing for a lift, or getting ready for a comp, or a max,
yeah.
because like I said, I'm trying to push out the negativity that can creep in. And also, when you have that negative, or you've already established that this might not happen, or this is hard,
Yeah.
guess what you're likely going to do? You're willing to give up.
Yeah.
If you're telling yourself that this is easy, if this is going to happen no matter what, when that struggle of that weight hits, you're more than likely going to continue grinding um, a little harder. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that makes sense.
my 2 cents, as someone that coaches a lot of people your age, um, stop allowing yourself to say, "Ooh, feels a little heavy," and start talking to yourself like Ronnie Coleman does before at
Yeah.
800-pound squat for 2 reps, or whatever he did on the most famous video. Tell yourself it's light. Tell yourself it's easy.
Yeah.
You got this, because that will change the actions. Honestly, it'll probably even make you a little less anxious stepping up to that
Yeah.
bar. So that's my 2 cents. Um, it's my podcast. I can do what I want. So that's what I did. So how is how has training gone compared to high school nationals, is raw nationals? Has that did that lead to any learning experiences or anything for you and your coach? Because um oh, good question. Does your coach now have more powerlifting clients? Has he used your experience to get more?
So I actually had a couple friends like at school that
Hmm.
saw how much I loved powerlifting
Hmm.
and were like, I want to do it. So
Awesome.
yeah, so we started a powerlifting team with a couple, like a friend from, like a friend of a friend, and
Hmm.
then my mom's friend's daughter, because she saw how
Awesome.
much I loved it, and she's like, I want to do it because she loves it so much,
So
and
you
she
have been
wanted
a
to have a
good
sport
business
that she
decision
loved.
for that coach. Getting him
Yeah.
referrals. Awesome. All right. So, like I said, let's get back. High school nationals, that was y'all's, both you and your coaches, I'm assuming, first national event. What would you
Yes.
say have both of y'all learned and changed heading into this nationals? Has anything changed in your training? Has anything changed in how he handles you from a mentality standpoint, what is high school? What is going into this Raw Nationals look like? How often are y'all training? And talk to us about like your training split, kind of, that way the audience knows like what it looks like for you. You don't have to give me specific like, you know,
Mhm.
macro details, but like I work out 4 days a week. I do this, and this on day one, or just like I said, a little bit about your training split.
So, I usually work out like 5 times a week,
Mm-hmm.
rarely 6. If like me and my coach are like, "Oh yeah, it feels great today. Let's go lift for fun," you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so usually we do bench twice a week, and
Yep.
then deadlift once a week, and then also squat once a week. And then depending on whenever we do the Saturday lifts, it depends on what we feel like doing that day.
So 4 days are pretty strict as far as like your setup program, and then you have a kind of additional um accessory slash how you're feeling
Yes.
for the week type thing, or if you've
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
had some. Okay. um so let's go back to what has anything changed in like maybe the way he's programming you, or the intensity, or the maybe the volume, or the maybe the deloads, or any, has just basically, have y'all made any changes from y'all's learning experience?
So,
And
he
no is an
usually
acceptable
trains.
answer. I just wonder.
Well, my coach is moving, so I have
uh
to. So it's kind of like a weird transition time right now.
okay.
Because I'm getting a different coach soon, and so that's a rough thing that's happening right now. So it's the training's a bit different
Okay.
from the last comp because it's only been a few weeks.
So there, technically you are under the direction of a new coach.
Yes.
Is that coach local?
She is in Savannah, so about like an hour-ish away.
So are you doing that remotely, or are you actually traveling every once in a while to lift with her?
So I would meet her close to Savannah a couple times a month, and then I'll do online training, and
Okay.
I'll go to the Y
Mhm.
in my town, and I'll lift there.
Okay. So correct me if I say anything wrong, but
Okay.
previously for the last 3 years, you've been doing mostly in person training, right?
Yes.
And now you're transitioning into a hybrid remote in person training.
Yeah.
I have two questions then.
Okay.
Why not stay with the current coach and just do strictly remote? Because you have a history with them.
Hmm.
And then the second question is, what went into finding this new coach? Like, what were you looking for? What were some of the maybe requirements? Because you've dealt with a lot of inexperienced coaches. What were some of the things that, as you were looking for a new coach, you were looking for, or did your mom just find it? It's probably a good question too, knowing your mom, and I
So
don't know her, but go ahead.
the coach that I'm looking to go to, she's actually the meet director I talked about
Okay.
earlier. And so I've known her for since I've been lifting, and I've she's always like we've always loved each other's energy and everything. And so
Now,
I
does
know she's
she
very knowledgeable.
does she have like, was she taking personal clients already, or
Yes.
is okay? Most meet directors do. Some don't. Some are busy enough just running meets that they don't have enough time for clients as well. So that's what I asked. Okay, so what made you decide not to stay with the current coach and go mostly remote?
So he actually was engaged recently, and that's why he is moving. He's moving
Mm-hmm.
with his fiance up in New Orleans, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so and I he's talked about opening a gym for teen lifters and doing a powerlifting gym and stuff. And so he talked about how training would go, and he talked about FaceTiming and
Mm-hmm.
everything. And I know that if he has clients in New Orleans, he's not going to always be there to FaceTime me and train me on the phone. And I don't want him to feel like he has to train me, and I don't want him to feel like I'm dragging him down. I want him to be able to have new clients. And I think meeting a trainer once to 3 times a month is better for my training, in my
Mhm.
opinion, just to like, if there's any problems I'm having during training that I need to explain in person or I need to show her in person are important to me.
Okay. I, all those were very intelligent. I commend you for your ability to examine yourself and decide what would probably be best for you. Um, I think at 17, that's still something, that a lot of kids struggle with, but it sounds like you made a very wise decision. Um, Not only that, but you also thought about other people and not just yourself, which I commend you for, because you were worried about making sure that coach that was moving was you weren't being a drain on what their aspirations were as they move. So I'm gonna have to give your mom another bonus point for just how she's raised you and what kind of mental clarification and um, problem solving and just analyzing situations she's instilled in you. So go mom again. I don't know. You got to tell me your mom's name because I'm going to probably use that as the title of this podcast. No offense to you.
Okay.
Uh, but so this remote coach or this hybrid coach, I should say, is a meet director. And I'm assuming she's a meet director for most of the meets you attend. Have y'all had the conversation of
Yes.
how that's going to go based on her being the meet director and your coach? Like, is she going to be, I guess maybe does she have a good enough staff to where she can coach instead of being focused on the meets that she puts on? Or is that conversation
So
came up?
we have talked about it, and we talked about it a little bit. So she would still run all my numbers
Mm-hmm.
and do all my warm-ups and like tell me what to do. She just would have to I would be a little more independent in the warm-up room, but
Okay.
I would still know what to do and everything like that. And I think it's a good transition because I actually want to lift in college
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Okay.
Um and
We'll
so
get
I
into
think it's
that
a
here in a
good
second then.
transition.
So we're going hybrid. We're going to meet them a couple times a month. So and in comp, she's probably gonna give you kind of warm up to this number, and then you're in charge of that as far as timing. And honestly, with 8 to 10 competitions, I would say that once again, you've realized that hey, I've done this enough. I could probably warm myself up. And I mean, I'm assuming with remote training, you're going to have to learn how to warm yourself up throughout the next couple of months to hit that first main lift. Whereas maybe in person, he was just putting the weights on for you. So I mean, you have a
Yeah.
good learning curve to do that. So um, I think you're making wise decisions. And also, I think that's going to make you learn more about training itself now that you're taking a little bit of independence from that. So I think that's a wise move at your age. Um, so, so you said only about a month
Into what?
into the new training coach.
Oh, I actually haven't started with her yet. I
Oh,
start
okay.
with her in a week or two, I think.
Awesome. So, well, I want to wish you good luck on the change. I'm sure I'll be interested. I might have to message you in a couple of weeks and ask how different the volume or stuff like that is because a
Yeah.
lot of coaches have different, off season or strength numbers that they expect you to hit from a volume stance or an overload stance. So that'll be an interesting question. We might have to do on season 2 of this. How's that?
Yeah.
Awesome. So let's talk about two things. Give me your goals for because you did say you were a very goal driven person. You have numbers that you want, so I know you already have numbers in your head for Raw Nationals. Kind of tell me about what those are and what you're personally going to do to make sure that you achieve or give yourself the best chance of reaching those goals.
So, I just want to start off by saying like am a firm believer of train when you're upset, train when you're not wanting to, train when you're unmotivated. So I think that's a big part about powerlifting is like do it when you don't even want to do it that day. Because that consistency is a big thing. It's huge.
God, you're
And
such a good
so
interview. You're saying all the right things. I do want to
um
point out before, real quick, you did not say train while injured or sick. I think sometimes that mentality can be a little overwhelming and you can push yourself. There are times not to train, is what I'm trying to
yes,
say.
definitely.
There are some times when training will actually do more harm than good. Injury, sickness, are definitely probably the top two on that. So I love that mentality. I tell people that all the time. Why say you want to do a sport if you're not willing to do it every day? You can't say you love something if you're willing to not do it because either you're busy, you know, you had a hard day or whatever. Because what I tell my kids is, guess what? That job doesn't care. They expect you 5 days
True.
a week, no matter what. So I think that's a great mindset. All right, so I'm going to let you have the floor. You're just saying so many good things that I want to get my 2 cents in.
It's okay. And so my goals for nationals, for squat, I want to hit from like 340 to 350.
So about a 20 to
Um,
30 pound PR.
yes.
Okay.
And then for bench, I want to be able to hit from 180 to 190.
Okay.
Um, and then for deadlift, I want to be able to hit from 350 to 360. I
Mm.
would like. I would like.
Those
That'd
are
be
some big
great.
goals. Um, all right. So, what are you doing to ensure that happens? Talk me through not what your coach is doing, other than just
Mhm.
doing what you're told to do when you're told to do it from a perspective of not having any days, not having any required days off or anything like that. What else are you doing? What talk me through anything that you're doing. It could be like, hey, we've started doing this for recovery because we've suggested it. I'm starting, you know, I read this book and I'm talking about this or that, or I have my goals on my bathroom mirror. Just what are you doing? What allows you to make sure that you accomplish your goals other than you just have a great work ethic?
So I think recovery is a huge thing. I actually have like these like leg compressor things.
Hmm.
I don't know what they're called,
Yeah, I know what
but
you're talking
you can
about.
either
They
put heat in them
massage.
or
Yeah, they massage and can heat,
yeah, yeah,
basically for cramping or for recovery of sore muscles and things like that.
yeah.
Yep.
And I also take like Epsom salt baths like at least once a week. Um and then I take a like I take a prescription, basically ibuprofen, basically,
Hmm.
and it's for my leg actually
Okay,
because
so
it
is
flares up sometimes.
what part of your leg, if you don't mind me asking? Like, is
So
it
it's caused by my IT band.
okay?
And I used to have a problem with it during wrestling actually.
Hmm.
I heard it and it's caused me some problems in training sometimes.
Okay, this I
It's
guess is
gotten a lot better, but
awesome. I'm glad to hear that, and I'm glad those leg compressors aren't cheap. So another kudos to your mom for just always investing in what you need to succeed. I'm I need to have your mom on the podcast and just talk about example of what a powerlifting parent should be. Maybe you set that up for me, okay?
okay.
um, so what from a mental aspect? We talk physically. What from a mental aspect are you doing different than high school nationals to make sure that you come out at least to where you want to be?
So I also think that bad sessions are a needed thing in my opinion, just because you need bad sessions to, not necessarily bad sessions, but like sessions where you're not as strong or not feeling good that day, or
Have you
they
ever
shape you
heard
mentally.
the Olympic like there's a huge reel that goes around social media all the time about what a famous Olympic coach has said, the 33% rule.
I've never heard of it.
Okay, so a world famous Olympic weight, or I don't think it was Olympic weightlifter. I think it was actually a track and field, some kind of track and field coach. But they said that 33% of the time your training is going to feel amazing.
Hmm.
33% of the time, your training is going to feel okay. And then 33% of the time your training is going to feel like crap. If those numbers ever sway one way or the other on percentages, you're either training too hard because it feels like crap too much, or you're
Hmm.
not training hard enough because your training's feeling too good. So what you're
Yeah.
saying is great. I just wanted to articulate it into maybe a better way of understanding it. I agree.
Wordage. Yeah.
You're gonna have bad days. Like what I love about the barbell is something you can do today, given a giving a bad sleep day. Maybe you're being stressed because of a test at school, or finals, or you broke up with a boyfriend, or whatever the life pressure is. There are going to be days when that easy one rep isn't easy because of challenging factors, and to be able to overcome that is a huge lifter's has to be in a lifter's arsenal, because it's going to
Yeah.
eventually happen. So very good. Um, so we're getting ready for high school nationals. We're a junior in high school, and you mentioned collegiate lifting. Let's talk about what your
Yeah.
goals for beyond high school are. I think that'd be a good way to kind of roll this into the last segments.
So, I actually want to go to McKendree, in Illinois.
I know Brad, so I will be sure to put in I don't know him well enough to make any pull, but I'll make sure to tell him that you came on the podcast and that I approve the addition, which means absolutely
Yeah,
nothing. But
I actually did a college visit in November
mhm,
with him, and I love how he coaches. I met some of the girls, and they're really nice. Like the
mhm,
community that they built is amazing,
yeah.
and I just love the family aspect that they have. I love
Are you ready
Brad
for
and
Georgia
everybody.
to Central Illinois weather though? Like more western Central Illinois, but
I don't know. I might get
okay.
a couple of heavy jackets and some boots.
Yeah. So I don't want to get too far into like your location. Are you north, south, east, or west Georgia?
South.
So even warmer. So yeah. Yeah, I'm sure your mom's done research already on what the average temperature is there and what you need to wear. But go mom, be prepared. Um so you do want to lift at a college that offers a powerlifting
Yes.
team. How did you learn that there were schools out there that did that? Watch you say your mom.
So I I know, right? Um, but I always heard of like different people, like different sports in college.
Hmm.
But I did like my some research and I'm like, what are like the top colleges for powerlifting? And then I started researching, I'm like, oh, they're all clubs. And then I found McKendree and
Hmm.
I'm like, oh, it's not a club. Like I can actually get a scholarship for this. Like that's crazy. Like I didn't know you could do that in college until like this year.
Okay.
And I'm like, I want to do that.
Okay. So I got two questions.
Okay.
One, who's a better researcher, you or your mom?
My mom.
Two, for the kids that didn't know that there were colleges that offered scholarships, or built up actual college sports and not college clubs. How did you find that out? Like, explain to the listeners how you research that to find that out, because I think that's where some people get lost. Like, what do I look up? Can I get a scholarship for powerlifting? Like, I'm sure that was probably your first search, but tell us a little bit about how you found that out.
So my mom played a big part in that too.
Go, mom.
But like so we originally our plan as a family was to go to college for wrestling, which was my main sport at the time. Well, not my main sport, but it was the sport that I liked second to powerlifting that I was like,
How
oh, well,
long
I can get
ago
a
was that?
scholarship for this. Um, I want to
Or
say a year
let
ago.
me. I was about to say, when did you? Do you still wrestle? I don't think I've
I
asked that.
don't
When did you give that up?
this year,
Oh,
actually.
okay.
Yeah,
So
it was hard.
powerlifting has definitely became the main focus, I guess you could say then.
Yes, and it's very much like me and my coach have talked about it. Like it has played a big role in my recovery. Like I've gained so much strength
Yeah.
from like saving my energy from
Mhm.
wrestling to powerlifting. Like it's helped so much.
So, and I don't have a lot of history with wrestling. The things that I have learned from research about sports training and things like that, wrestling is one of the most demanding sports out there because
Yeah.
they're training for not only strength but endurance. They're, the mobility that you have and the awkward positions you get put in. I can see where that has hindered your training, your powerlifting training, before. So, and I commend you for being an athlete or a non-specific athlete too early. I see too many kids, and this is going to be a repeating record, but I see too many kids pick one sport way too early in life. So I commend you on waiting till your junior or senior year to say, hey, I've gained a lot of strength or athleticism because I've been a multi-sport athlete, but now it's time to turn my focus to my true goal or my true dream. So I want to give you credit of that. Okay, so you were thinking about going to school for wrestling. Where was that school supposedly or hopefully going to be located?
So I didn't even have a school picked out yet.
Oh, okay.
So I was still like exploring my horizons of what college I wanted to go to,
Mhm.
if I want to go out of state or not, and everything like
Would you
that.
say you were a top tier wrestler? Like, had you ever gone to like state or anything like that for wrestling? I say that because was an actual scholarship something that you think was possible?
So at the time I didn't make it to state, but I was like one place away from going to
Okay.
state. Um but I had a record of 22 to 4 or 5, I think.
Okay. So, very good record.
Yeah.
Um,
So
all right. So, um, you knew that you wished you hoped that an athletic scholarship was in the future. How did you find
yes.
about powerlifting scholarships specifically?
So my mom actually, she like kept sending me colleges and I'm like, "Okay, I'll look at them." Okay.
Hmm.
You know, and so I looked on Instagram and everything and
Hmm.
all that, and then I saw a bunch of official offers, official offers, official offers,
Hmm.
and I'm like, "Wow, like that's crazy."
Awesome.
And so there's only like a select few colleges that do that. And
It's
so
growing, but I
it
would say there's
is.
probably about around 10 or so. I do want to
Yeah.
point out most of these are private colleges. Just for our audience, a lot of these are private universities. So, um, there's some plus or minuses to that. So
Yeah.
tell me what when you found McKendree, what did you do? When you noticed that this was a college that offered scholarships or stuff, what did you do?
So me and my mom we gathered up a whole sliver of a message and we sent it to Brad, and
Mhm.
he answered, and we
Did
set
you
up a
fill out
college
their
visit.
interest form on their social media page? I wonder. Or did
Uh
you said you contacted him directly?
I think we just contacted him
Okay.
directly actually.
Okay. So just FYI,
But
there are most colleges that offer scholarships have like a "Are you interested?" form. Just for listeners out there, that's a good way to start the conversation with the school.
yeah.
All right. So you emailed him back. He what did and I'm actually gonna have Brad on the podcast multiple times. He's a very good powerlifting support person, friend. I mean, not that we talk on a daily or anything, but I would definitely consider, we go to a lot of his meets and set up booths and stuff. So what was the contact back from him, and what did that make you feel, or what did that kind of um anything, how did that how was that reaction? How was that, like, okay, this is possible, what do we do, type thing?
So my initial reaction was like, wow, he answered. Like, what do I do? And so we ended up talking about it, and he was like, yeah, that'd be great. And so we ended up setting up a college visit, and
Mhm.
I actually ended up training with him one of the days that I came, and it was
did
amazing.
did you train at McKendree? Did you get to train at
949.
yeah, 9 for 9? It's an amazing gym. Very, very good gym. Got that old grungy, um, like bodybuilding slash just hardcore feel to it, doesn't it? Yeah. All right. So you go on the college campus. Um, are you doing anything else to kind of stay on his radar, or did he give you any kind of, like, this is what you need to do, um to like
So
stay
I'm
on our
kind of
radar?
so he didn't really give me anything. I just kind of I started like posting on social media more and posting my training videos and keeping like messaging him regularly and being
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, hey, how was the meet?" and "Oh, I'm having a meet this weekend." And sending him like the feeds and everything like that.
So I want to point out what that's probably doing, just for the audience and stuff. One, by going and adding posts about your training, you're doing two things. One, you're keeping them updated with that you're still working, that you work hard, and that you're passionate about it. So all good things, all things that are going to keep him, more than likely, you know, being on your radar. Also, you're communicating, and I'm assuming that your mom approves um, the the quantity. So you're communicating, but you're not being pushy. I'm gonna
Yeah.
guess. So all those things show that, hey, I want this, um, and I'm impressed with what you're doing with that. That's I think those, and I can't wait to have him on the podcast so he can actually give unsolicited recommendations for kids. But I think what you're doing is amazing, in a good way, to really achieve that goal. What does your parents think about the long distance college perspective?
So they're kind of like they're okay with me moving away that far just because um some of my family actually lives up there. My great grandma's farm is up there.
Okay.
So it's kind of nice just to have family around. So it
Okay.
gives them some reassurance about me living up there.
So if something major happens, there's not that big of a gap to where you can get to a
Yeah,
support system. Awesome.
definitely.
Thank you so much. We're gonna wrap this up, but I tend to like to ask um, my teenagers a question to end, because I think this is a very important question. It's actually a two-part question. So, one, what can powerlifting do to attract more people your age? Like, what is something that it's missing, or what should they change in order to appeal to more kids your age?
I think just supporting other people, just because like me being so nervous at my first comp and no one like saying anything was a it made me not know how much people were in my corner cheering for me
Hmm.
until I actually looked back. So just supporting other teens my age is like a huge thing that just helps everyone mentally.
Hmm. Um,
So,
how I say that because, no offense, that's a very broad um
yeah.
answer. So how would you direct them to do that? Do you think that maybe the rules meeting needs to even have like an hey, these are the rules, and then we're going to have another 5-minute conversation with all the first timers? Or I know personally, like, when I'm a judge, at a meet and I see people's hands go up for first timers, I personally try to go usually talk to them, so I can maybe answer some questions outside of the group, because
Yeah.
people are scared to ask dumb questions. But what would you suggest that either meet directors or even lifters, because you talked about community, do in order to achieve that feeling of support?
Nothing is more supportive than just telling someone like good job, like just relax. It's just your first meet. There's so
Mhm.
many meets to come, and
Mhm.
it's just an amazing sport, and you're always going to grow and grow and grow.
Mhm.
And so just telling someone good job is just the little things that you tell people make a huge difference. So I think even like as like a lifter, like if someone
So
comes up to
would
me,
you assume that needs to come more from the lifter than the actual staff?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So it sounds like that the community needs to adopt, or let's say the veterans need to make sure that they're communicating with the rookies to ensure um that encounter for the first time is a positive one, right? Is that what
Yes.
you're saying? Awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
um and you kind of hinted, I think you hinted on what I'm about to ask on the next one. what should what should teenagers realize about this sport? What makes this sport so good for teenagers, or what should teenagers realize that they're going to get out of this, or why should teenagers get into this sport? What would you say, if you were like making a huge announcement to teenagers, like trying to sell this sport to them? What would you say is the best qualities for people your age, when it comes down to this sport?
It's it just shapes, like if I was telling another person about powerlifting, like another teen my age about powerlifting, and I was trying to sell them on it really hard, I'd be like, it's the greatest sport ever, and you can only all you can do is grow. And just pushing the limits and pushing how strong you can get and seeing how much you can compete against everyone. And the competition is like huge. And like you can go to IPF Worlds and nationals and all this stuff and be on the USA team, and it's just a great thing to do at a younger age, honestly, just because it builds your mental capacity and your independence and your maturity throughout your middle school or high school life, depending on when you start.
Well, I mean, I'm sold. Where do I sign up? All right. Well, Trinity, I just want to thank you for coming on the show today. Honestly, it's been an amazing conversation. I think I've said this 5 times now, so I'm a broken record as well. But I'm very, very impressed with your mentality. Um, First and foremost, I think that you're definitely setting yourself up to be an amazing human being as an adult, just because of what I can tell with your work ethic, with your mental strength, and your just drive. So I look forward to reaching back out to you maybe in a year or so, and catching up. I'd love to see if I'm gonna talk something in existence. I can't wait to see that committed to McKendry post on your social media. Uh, Brad, call me. No,
Yes.
um, and just thank you again for your time. It was a delight. It was inspirational to see an athlete like you at such a young age. So kudos to you, and kudos to your awesome mom. I was not joking. I definitely think she needs to be on the podcast. Everybody that's listening, I hope you had a good time. Thank you for listening. Make sure you go follow Trinity on her social medias. We'll link those below. And once again, strength is never a weakness. Thank you for watching.